So, Dwight has seen it all from being on the top of the league and the best player in the country for a few years to leading the NBA in All-Star votes. But sometimes I feel like this gets overshadowed because his reputation takes a big hit because of all the injuries he's had, and perhaps the video of Dwight in his prime and him just kind of falling off, especially with his coach Stan Van Gundy. So it's crazy because we've seen him fall off so quickly from the age of 20 or 29, and seeing how the initial start of his career, he was the first pick over Mek Okafor, and Dwight had made 8 consecutive All-Star appearances, and as well as 8 NBA All-Teams, 5 defensive teams, and as well as 3 defensive players of the year. And during that time frame, Dwight was averaging about 20 points, 13 rebounds, 2 blocks a game, and hit about 60% of his shots, which made him stand out above his peers. It was crazy. He was definitely one of the most dominant forces in the NBA, and his strength and his 6'10" athleticism and frame, per se, was a perfect combination of strength, speed, and athleticism. So kind of like foreshadowing today's modern NBA big man. When Dwight was 0-3 feet from the rim, he could score 75% of his shots. His bread and butter was the hook shot. And I recall seeing Shaq and Charles always criticize Dwight post-game because they always felt that he didn't have that typical back-to-back or back to the hoop center post-up game that all the OG centers had, like Hakeem, like Shaq, like David Robinson, Patrick Ewing, and Dwight was always getting flack for that because he had this more of an athletic game, and his go-to shot was that kind of like that run to the rim, like hook shot, similar to Alonzo Mourning. So Dwight actually was very efficient. 50% of his shots near the hoop would go in, and he could score at the post, and he averaged a true shooting percentage, and it was always the team's first option when it came to the Orlando Magic. He essentially was kind of, I would say, a much better version of Rudy Gobert, and I also say kind of like a 2-3 steps up from Tyson Chandler. So Dwight was a huge force. The funny thing with Dwight was back in his Orlando days, he was able to single-handedly carry the Orlando Magic to the NBA Finals. And that's insane because when he went to the NBA Finals, his teammates consisted of him, kind of a not-so-good Rashard Lewis. So if anyone remembers Rashard Lewis, he was a small forward, power forward, came over from the Seattle Sonics. They signed him to a big contract, and he was essentially Dwight's Robin, while Dwight was, I guess, Superman, so the number 2. Also, he had a Vince Carter. Keep in mind, this Vince Carter isn't the Vince Carter from the Orlando or from the Toronto Raptors. This is the Vince Carter after he came from New Jersey, after he made after he was playing with Jason Kidd and Richard Jefferson. This was that Vince Carter. So post New Jersey, post Toronto Vince Carter. So not the high flyer Vince Carter that you're seeing. He was still a very good player, but he definitely wasn't in that caliber. So also he had other guys like Hedo Turkoglu, and I guess his other all-star at the time was Jameer Nelson. But from what I understand, when Jameer was also on the team, Jameer was an all-star due to someone being a backup or like someone getting injured. So that was kind of Dwight's, I guess, best teammates during the time. And during that time, he was going up against Kobe's Lakers. So, and Kobe's Lakers were stacked. They had Paul Gasol, Andrew Bynum, Ron Artest, Kobe. They had D-Fish, Derek Fisher running the point. So that was essentially the team that Dwight was going up against. So going back to kind of Dwight and his stats. So during that time, Dwight had a very high turnover rate, and he hovered about 17% turnover, which means for every 17 times he would turn over the ball 17 times per 100 possessions. And this is probably one of the worst kind of turnover rates you can have, especially during as a center, when you're not really handling the ball that much. You're more or less grabbing the ball from the point guard during your pick and rolls, or kind of grabbing off the rebounds. So that's what Dwight was kind of hovering around. So it's interesting too, because back in the day, when Dwight was with the Magic, he was shooting very horribly when it came to his free throw percentage. I believe he was hovering around 50% at the time, and that was probably kind of like one of the worst free throw percentages you could have. So Dwight was essentially in that Shaq role where teams would foul Dwight and practice that kind of hack a Shaq or hack a Dwight technique. So essentially, whenever the game is close, or they are kind of in the penalty and they don't want you to score, they would foul Dwight Howard. Essentially, he would get 2 free throws, and Dwight would just get 1 free throw, would make one of those 2 free throws, and that would be kind of like a team's tactic throughout the years. So rather than giving the chance for the Magic to score, Dwight would get hacked. That get 1 or 2 free throws. A lot of times he would miss those free throws, go for 0 for 2, and he would basically miss and give the other team another chance in possession to score the ball. So I think we tend to forget that the reason Dwight left Orlando was because he wasn't happy with Coach Stan Van Gundy. He really wanted to go make the move to LA. He wanted to become LA's next big man. And in his 2010-2011 season, he was the first player to become Defensive Player of the Year for 3 consecutive seasons, led the league in double-doubles, and averaged 14.1 rebounds, 2.3 blocks, and 1.3 steals a game. In 2011-2012, this was his last season with Orlando, and he decided to demand a trade to the New Jersey Nets, the Lakers, or the Mavericks, because he stated that Orlando wasn't able to build a championship contender, and he would not be able to see eye to eye with Stan Van Gundy. And on January 12, 2012, Dwight actually attempted a season record of 39 free throws against the Warriors, and where he made about 42% of free throws and just 60% below his career high. This was kind of like the birth of the hacker Dwight, just I guess seeing it into fruition. So what happened to Dwight in this season was his last season with Orlando. He announced in April 19 to 2012 he would undergo surgery for a herniated disc, and he would miss the rest of the 2011-2012 season, as well as the Olympics. And on the summer of 2012, Dwight was eventually traded from the Magic to the Lakers. And this at the time was a blockbuster deal because it involved the Lakers, the Nuggets, and the Sixers. So the way that trade worked was that Dwight was the main piece in this trade, and he was headlining the move to LA for this trade. And there were several other parts in this trade. It was a 4-team trade at the time, and so what happened was Dwight was traded to the Lakers, and what happened was Dwight was traded, so the Nuggets would acquire Andre Iguodala from the 76ers. Sixers would receive Andrew Bynum, Jason Richardson, and the Magic would get Aaron Aflalo, Al Harrington, and 1 future first-round pick, while the Lakers took back Earl Clark, Chris Duhon, and Dwight Howard. So this was essentially Dwight's kind of trade to the Lakers, and everyone was very hyped at this time, thinking that he would be a great player. But essentially, I guess this kind of like touted his first fall from grace. During his first season with the Lakers, he was able to work closely with coach Mike D'Antoni, and after the All-Star break, Dwight had averaged 15.5 points, 14.8 rebounds, and 2.6 blocks per game. However, he ended up finishing the season as a Laker and eventually decided to become a free agent after the season. He became a free agent in LA, and LA had thrown a lot of banners as well as a lot of, I guess, high-level celebrities to help get Dwight back. And this is where Dwight was offered a max contract of 5 years, $118 million from the Lakers. So essentially that comes out to about $23.6 million a year. So Dwight decided actually to spurn the Lakers and moved to the Rockets, where he joined with James Harden. And James was actually just traded to the Rockets too. Prior that, he came from trade from OKC, where OKC needed to shed his contract because they chose James Harden over Serge Ibaka. So Dwight went on to play for the Rockets from 2013 to 2016, and on June 22nd, 2016, Dwight declined his $23 million option for the 2016-2017 season and then moved to the Hawks. So when Dwight signed to the Hawks, he agreed to a per-year $70 million contract with the Hawks because he wanted to go home to his hometown team. And this kind of like starts beginning Dwight's, I guess, merry-go-round in the NBA. After the Hawks, he gets traded for the 31st pick to the Charlotte Hornets for Marco Bellinelli, Miles Plumlee, and the 41st pick of the 2017 NBA draft. After that, Dwight then gets released, I believe. Oh no, actually, Dwight gets traded to the Brooklyn Nets for Timothy Mozgov, Hamidou Diallo, and a 2021 second-round pick. He was then waived immediately. He then signs with the Wizards after that, 2018-2019, and then as he signs to the Wizards, he gets injured again, hurting his back, and he gets traded to the Memphis Grizzlies for CJ Miles, where he was eventually waived by the Wizards, and now he is currently on the Lakers after this whole merry-go-round. And it's crazy to see how much Dwight had to, I guess, go through in order to kind of go full circle to the NBA. And we do kind of forget how much of a monster he was. From about 2004 to 2012, he was one of the best centers in the NBA for the Orlando Magic, and he averaged a career high in rebounds in 2011-2012 with 14.5, and then a career high in points per game in 2010-2011 with 22.9. So now Dwight is a member of the Los Angeles Lakers, and he's going by his second run around. It's crazy to forget how good this man was. But leave a comment below what you thought about how good Dwight was back on the Orlando days, and do you think he'll ever reach that star status again here with the Lakers? Maybe he'll be a glorified role player. Who knows? But yeah, thank you guys for watching.